Yeah, hi guys. Um, yeah, great, great to see that you are joining. So please, keep joining us. Just greet us. Say hi, and let us know which country you are streaming from. We're waiting for Pamela to join us. She'll be here with us shortly. I'm seeing some people who are joining, and so today we'll talk about economic development of Africa through entrepreneurship. You know, um, this is going to be an interesting topic. I think as designers, developers, or business analysts, we need to challenge ourselves in terms of how well we understand Africa. Especially when we're working for companies that operate in the African continent. So let's see who's joining us, and I see some people have joined. Mamuloko Chivula from South Africa in Polokwane. Hi, Mamuloko. Great to see you. Guys. I mean, like these sessions are pretty chilled, and the main aim is to to engage and to share our knowledge, and to also to promote the African dialogue that we should be striving for as Africans. I mean, this is a great time to be alive, and there's a strong focus for Africa, and this is the opportunity for us to actually explore the opportunities that exist in our continent, and we are the best people that know it better. Um, just give me a moment, and I see that people are joining from Tanzania. Ernews Malekela, great to see you. And also been joined by Tsepo from South Africa. I see Dr. Rosano Wells. Good afternoon. Could you please just let us know which country you're streaming from? Because we have people attending from the different African countries. So it's always great to see which countries are being represented and the people that are attending. So guys, as per usual, we're gonna have our guests shortly. I want you guys to engage, to ask your questions, etc. Just give me a moment. I'll be with you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, hi, Pamela. How's it?
It's good. This is my way. Getting on is crazy. It's my first time. Hi everyone.
Yeah.
Crazy. Happy to
No.
be here.
Yeah, no, happy New Year to you too. Yeah, I mean, like, we are chilled. Yeah, so yeah, no need to panic. So yeah, I mean, great. It's great to have you. It's great,
You too,
to be here.
thank you. Yes, lovely. I love these kind of initiatives, so thank you so much.
Sure, 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 sure. Yeah, so guys, Pamela is here. We're gonna, start shortly, and yeah. So what I'll do is I will just, share the questions from my side that are prepared, and I'll ask you, yourself to give the audience a bit of context, and then I'll share some questions, and also the people who are joining us, they will also have an opportunity, to basically share their views, their thoughts, share questions, opinions, etc., right? And then we can as we go, you can always like jump in and respond to some of the comments or some of the questions, etc. So it's a very like informal session, and we want to keep it that way so that it feels light. And the most important thing is for us to be able to share the knowledge, empower each other, to grow. And so yeah, um, what I'll do is, from my side, just let me know. I'm just gonna share um, my screen, and just give me a moment, and let's see if I'm able to. Uh, okay, let's see if this is visible.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see.
Um, okay, fit to screen. Let's see. Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. And let me see if we can go back. So yeah, guys, welcome to the session. And this is really about, inspiring Africans. When we're talking about economic development of Africa through entrepreneurship, we've got, Pamela Nga, from Yaoundé in Cameroon. And yeah, so I'm just going to do a bit of an intro. And yeah, so
I was never taught African history throughout my life until I moved back to Cameroon, and they taught me that about colonization. They taught me about a group of people, dynamic people that had so much for themselves and didn't get the opportunity to explore that. And that kind of stemmed a passion to want to inspire young Africans, young Cameroonians like me, that Cameroon, Africa has so much potential, let's invest. So I took my little self and started reading a lot of business books. And from that point, I started recording an episode. I think the first episode on the podcast is on financial literacy, because I felt that many people didn't really know how to handle their finances, including me, and they didn't even know what to do with their money, including me. And I just sat and I was like, okay, how can I talk about business? How can I talk about money? And I don't have a business. So I turned it into a show and I started interviewing Cameroonian entrepreneurs. And then I started expanding to Africans in the diaspora. And now I'm still interviewing such amazing entrepreneurs all over the continent. One thing I want to inspire or create as anybody who's going to listen to my podcast is for them to understand that Africans from all over the continent understand that we are all in this boat, but we're all trying to exploit our potential. We're all trying to invest, develop, represent our culture all over the globe. And it's important that the listener that is going to tune into my podcast understands that they can do something about themselves, for the future of the continent, for their community, and for anybody around them. What makes the podcast unique is I try to bring two languages together. I have a French background, and then I grew up in a very English speaking background as well. So it's a challenge for me to bring in both, but I think it's about uniting people from different languages to tune into the show as well. So we have Francophone entrepreneurs, we have Anglophone entrepreneurs. I haven't learned Spanish yet, so the Spanish speaking community, I'm getting there. So that's what really makes it unique, and it's part of my personality, it's part of where I grew up, and I wanted to share that on the podcast as well. For this third season, we're going to have a very dynamic set of entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing Kenyans, Tanzanians, Sudanese. It's going to be Ethiopians as well. It's going to be quite interesting and fun as usual. I'm going deeper because these set of entrepreneurs want to really promote the African culture in the different dynamics or the different industries they're in. And I think their stories are captivating. I think their stories are worth listening to. And I think it's really spicy. And then there's pepper. Hi there, and welcome to Startup Africa on your favorite YouTube channel, Tuna Techie. I'm your host, Pamela Nga. Hi, Nick. Wow. On this show, we're bringing to you entrepreneurial stories like no other. We're not just talking about entrepreneurship.
So yeah, guys, I thought I just give you a taste of what Pamela Nga is about, and yeah, she's here with us, and I want to introduce herself in person, and I mean people have got a bit of context now, and yeah, before we jump into the questions discussion.
Hi, I can't hear you properly. Could you increase your sound? I think the microphone.
You can't hear me properly.
Yes, just speak a little louder, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there's a bit of noise coming from your side. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, eh?
Yeah, but anyways, let's see how it goes. Yeah, could you please just tell us a bit about yourself? Where you from, what you're about, and how you spend your weekends.
First of all, I'm seeing that video. I was so like some nostalgia because I was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
2
yeah.
years ago. I'm Pamela Nga, so I'm a journalist, and I also am an entrepreneur. I specialize in business. I'm passionate about businesses. I've always been passionate about businesses. And so right now I produce content, I write articles, and I work with a consulting firm where we help companies implement their products into the market right now in Cameroon. So I'm based in Cameroon. I was born in Cameroon, but I grew up in Tanzania, Arusha, Tanzania. So if there's any Tanzanians here, hey, I grew up in Tanzania majority of my life. Arusha, great place, and that's where the English side of me developed because I spoke French from when I was young to about 8 years old, and then I learned English, and now English is kind of something that I speak just off head, right, like that. So what I like to do during my weekends, honestly, the older you get, the more you want to sleep. Sleeping is sleeping is
Yeah,
important because I do so much. Like currently, I produce content for a production company. I write articles. I work with a consulting firm, and I'm still trying to balance my own projects. So any opportunity that I get to just rest, I rest. But realistically, I listen to music. It really helps me brainstorm because I'm someone that's very creative. So music kind of boosts my creativity. I read a lot. Reading really takes you somewhere else. So reading is important. Listen to music and spending time with friends, doing very stupid things like chit chatting about what this person did last week. That the simple life, pretty
sure.
much.
Yeah, no thanks, no thanks. Yeah. So I just want us to, to talk about what is like Mindful Entrepreneur podcast. Why did you create it? Why? What are you trying to achieve? And I'm sure there's a lot that you've observed that is happening in the continent, and there's also like a great reason why I felt the need for you to come to the channel to actually engage with our audience. So yeah, like why did you start it? And let's see it from you. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm struggling to hear you. I'm not sure. Did you mute yourself?
You muted me. Hi, can
Okay,
you hear me now?
okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Can
Yes,
you hear me?
yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, guys, I think she's got a bit of a problem there. Yeah, let's give it. a minute, well, a couple of seconds. Hopefully she'll be back now. So yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. Sorry.
Yeah.
Connection is really not playing with us. But we move, okay? Africa, we move. So back to your question, mindful entrepreneur. So I started mindful entrepreneur, to be honest, because I believe I'm a Pan-African at heart. Like Tanzania was such a great experience for me. It accepted me, they welcomed me with such open arms. I met so many great people, and I went to an international school. So obviously, from childhood, I've always been just open-minded, and so I started being passionate about African history. So when I moved back to Cameroon, because in Tanzania they didn't have, is he still there? Hey, I don't know. Hello.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm just.
Okay.
I can hear you. So if I
Okay,
remove
that's
my
fine.
video, if I remove my video, I can still hear you. I'm here.
Okay, just appeared. Okay, so back in the school where I went to in Tanzania, they didn't teach African history. They told us world history. They talked to us about very little things of the world, white system to be basic. But when I came back to Cameroon, I was such a passionate of history. They talked to us about African history, Cameroonian history, and that's how I knew about colonialism, slave trade, all these different things. And it really it kind of planted the seed for me to be like, wow, why are we like this? Why do we speak other people's languages? Why are we in the system? Why can't we as African evolve? It's because for hundreds of years a lot of things have been taken away from us, and we had kind of followed in this victimization system. And so I was like, okay, there has to be something. So I was talking to a friend who was in South Africa, and we were always talking about economic, like what are youths got to do? What do youth have to do to make Africa different? Like, look at the immigration rates, why so many people are leaving Africa. And he was like, it's great for us to talk about this, but I think a lot of people just don't have the information that it's possible in Africa. And so it sparked something in me a couple of years later to start this podcast. The podcast started off from just recording in my closet. I'm not even gonna lie. I was recording in my closet, little snippets. And I remember, like, after 2-3 episodes, I just remember praying and being like, God, please align me to people that are going to make this vision go bigger. Because I just believed, I needed to give people information. I needed to give people, you can start a business, you can do this, you can develop in Africa. It's possible. That was just the thing I had in mind. So that little concept from my phone in the closet, because I couldn't have all the sound equipment, grew into a podcast where I produced at a radio station. It grew into my whole career into journalism, where I started working with a media company, producing content internationally, and it's just been great. But I've always stayed in the niche of business. I don't produce other content that is not related to business, because I think we are only able to empower our economies when we empower our own economies, rather than just bringing in other people coming in and setting up their businesses. If they come in and set up, we should still own a majority of our stuff. We should still own a majority of our market. It shouldn't be dominated by other foreign companies. So that's the motive behind my entrepreneur. Grew from that into what it's continuing to grow into.
Sure. No, thanks. So how has your passion for African entrepreneurship grown?
My passion has grown a lot because I started just thinking and being this person who wanted to give out information to. As I was producing content, I had a lot of opportunities come to me, like, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do a voiceover? I didn't even know I could do voiceovers. I didn't even know there was a career in journalism for me. They were like, oh, we love your voice. Can you do this? Can you do that? And then from there, it grew. And as I kept on interviewing entrepreneurs, they would want to work with me because, I don't know, I gave the impression that I was a professional, but I was just a student. But I was like, you know what? I want to start somewhere. And so I started actually working with entrepreneurs, startups, tech startups, companies, to really see what is the mindset, what is the business, what is not actually working. in the African market, especially in Cameroon and Central Africa. What is working, what's not working, why are these people dominating, what are the struggles and the realities. So it grew into a full-on career, and that's why I consider myself an entrepreneur, which is someone who works for a company but also executes the same creative and skills that you can have if you're an entrepreneur. And I will become an entrepreneur full time, but I'm in that phase where I want to learn what is not working, working with these companies, working with Africans, seeing what is working, what is not working.
Sure. No, thanks. So what is the development of African economies and why should we care? I think it's very important just for us to be on the same page so that we understand what it means to talk about development of Africa.
Oh, this is very deep. And I think development has so many levels. There's the having currency to being able to boost our own small and medium-sized companies, to even our educational system. Everything starts from the basics. What are we training people to? What is the information that is given to us when we're kids, to us growing and developing our own countries? From educational systems, we're thought about other people's histories. We're thought about, you have to finish. And even in school, because I did school in Cameroon, the majority of schools will just tell you, okay, when you finish, just go get a government job. It doesn't really encourage you to be an entrepreneur. And then once you want to venture, the government systems, creating your entrepreneurship company is frustrating. So it's about everything that has to do with facilitating those who want to invest into our African countries, do that the most easiest way possible, the most easiest way possible. And I remember I had the first time I met, he worked for the British High Commissioner here. He's in charge of all the trades that has been between the UK and Cameroon. And I remember speaking to him and I asked him, how does it actually go? How do these big companies, how does these Europeans come and they exploit us, And he's like, I think it's a trade, but the trade is never equal. So they will trade services for raw materials. Like they will come to Cameroon and say, we're going to give you our certification programs, our UK certification programs. We're going to give you these trainings. We're going to open schools here. In exchange, we need you to cut down these amount of trees and send it to us. Or we need you to send us, bananas. And it's never the same. It's never equal because we aren't at that same level of economic empowerment. So if we as Africans are able to develop our African continent, then when it comes to the negotiation table, we become equal. When it comes to, us asking for loans, and when it comes to us asking for trades between these countries, we don't end up losing what we own to something that isn't measurable. Like, how do we accept other people's certifications in comparison to raw materials? Because in the end, once this person gets a certification, they're going to go to the UK. They're not going to stay in Cameroon and develop Cameroon. They're going to go and develop and go to the UK and live another life. We lose our smart, we lose our people. So economic development has to do with everything that's regulated to facilitating those who want to invest in Africa, whether it comes to creating a company, whether it comes to getting loans, whether it comes to, having a stable taxation, everything that's related to that, and our educational system. Does it empower us to invest? So, and I think we should care because everybody knows what we as Africans are suffering, like compared to other countries, how much we're losing, the immigration rates, everything, we feel it. And we should care because that can't be our story forever. There needs to be a change.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a big wave, that feeling, and if you look at even some of the artists, collaborating with African artists, artists from the US, from the UK, wanting to, collaborate with or have features, with African artists and, African, fashion designers getting recognition, globally, etc. And I think, the dialogue has to continue, and we can't continue to blame the education system. Yes, it's broken, and it's not, helping to helping us, to set ourselves up, to have, the business like mindset, other than, being, feeling like you're being prepared, for an employee, position, right? And even, a lot of us work in a corporate space, and I don't feel confident that, I know a lot about Africa as much as I get to hear a lot about the UK, a lot about, about the US, right? And for me, that is a problem, and if we work for African countries that have got an African footprint, even us as employees, we should have a deep and strong knowledge about Africa, and being able to identify the opportunities and the challenges that we're facing, right? And yeah, the fact that, we're still, talking about, how can we even create opportunities, across our borders, and we have to take an initiative, to talk about, these challenges and actually, solve, right? And we'll probably, fail, but like I've seen, a big way, as I said, right? And even though we talk about this, right? The youth also has to have that like good spirit that they feel from us, that hey, actually it is attractive to work for an African, startup, or to create one, than for me to go, to work in the US or the UK, because now, yes, it's a great opportunity to be able to work anywhere, right? But if our great potential is exporting itself, overseas, and obviously, we are not taking an interest when it comes to the development of the African economy.
And just to bounce off what you said of like
Yeah,
people don't know a lot about Africa. I have my friend, she lives in The Hague, and she said I think a year ago she started researching about Africa because she didn't know anything as much. She
yeah,
just, didn't know anything, like it's just what she heard, what people have posted online, and she's an African,
yeah,
pure
yeah, yeah,
African, but she knows so much more about the US and so much more about UK and Europeans and Germany and everything than she doesn't know about her own continent. And it wasn't until she started consuming our own content, and that's why it's like we need to produce our own so that people start consuming,
yes,
whether it's clothes, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's any content Africans used to put out there, so that we can consume as much as we can of our own, so that we know, when we stand up to the building, we'll say this is what happened, this is what
yeah,
happened. But there's still that's confliction where a lot of people are afraid to consume local, are afraid to consume our own, because there's that brainwash of it's better over there. They have better. They've done it
yeah,
better, and they
yeah,
are always better. So it's that battle, especially here in Central Africa. When you are a company, especially in Cameroon, if you're trying to set up your company, it's very difficult for you to be a product company, because
yeah,
Cameroonians are not. They don't consume their own. We import everything: rice, eggs, everything. We import everything. So
yeah,
just
yeah,
to tell you that consumer behavior, they don't prone their own. That's why when you're coming in with your own product as Cameroon, you're gonna struggle a lot, because
yeah,
if a
yeah,
French company comes in and does the same thing, you're out, and the
yeah,
government's
yeah,
not support you. So you have to find your way around. Whereas countries like Cote d'Ivoire, West Africa, it's more or less people will be prone to consume their own. They have like a different mindset there. So like certain African zones, when you're trying to be an entrepreneur, the market reacts differently to what you
yeah.
have to.
So yeah, so in South Africa, the spirit of supporting local products, it's growing. I've seen quite a lot of like, black South African products, from like from jeans, to like, food, and obviously music, and other industries, right? And because the main like the energy that fuels that, mindset, it's purely based on the fact that, for us to be better, we need to support our own, and for us, to be better, we need to give ourselves the opportunity, and yes, there's still like a strong, influence, and let's call it, brainwashing, and because, if you wear like a recognizable brand, it gives you that self-esteem, right? And the question really is, what are our African values? I believe that we've lost them, and in this, like, Western economy, we are trying to find ways, to survive, not even to thrive, right? And there's what I really appreciate is that there's an African perspective to it. If it's gonna be a sneaker, the South African culture, whether it's Ndebele, it's Xhosa or Zulu, right? That gets manifested, right, in the design, and because people now great, we've seen great brands, but it's great to see, a touch of a South African, a flavor, right? And there's nothing like really new, uh, you know, but at the same time, the most important thing is to recognize and to support the energy, right? And I mean, there've been like celebrities producing wine, uh, but technically, they're not owning the value chain. They're actually, uh, producing a label, not necessarily being involved, in the production, right? Yes, it's a great step, for us, to take, and we will learn. And look, I think we've been learning. People are getting sick and tired, and
Getting sick and
how
tired of
can
being.
we? Exactly, right. And I mean, like, it's up to us, like, that's why I would rather be in South Africa, or rather be in some village, to support and, to encourage um, the African economy, the development of the African economy, than be sitting in London, sitting in Tokyo, or San Francisco, right? And look, we all have our own, choices in life, and
Yeah.
I understand that people haven't tasted money, they want to go for those opportunities. And I understand that, people, because of their ego, they want to, say, yeah, sure, I am working for company X based in wherever, right? And we need to talk about that, right? Because it also shows that we are not confident in our own skin. We're not feeling comfortable, in our own, right? Places. People move from villages to townships, from townships to the suburbs, right? If we can't develop our own villages or develop our own townships, right, then we'll be forever be like running to places where we feel that it's better, right? And anyways, let me shut up. So I want us to talk about, what is the role of entrepreneurship in the development of African economies?
Yeah. And I think you talked a little bit about that. The role of number one role of entrepreneurship in the development of African economies is, first of all, so that we can have our own, so that we can feel comfortable in our own, so that we can feel empowered. Like you said, people are immigrating from townships to villages, leaving their villages the way that they are, leaving their townships the way that they are, thinking, someone else is gonna do it. Someone else is gonna do it. I
Yeah,
think there's
yeah,
this
sure, sure.
mentality of a savior. I think some Africans have that mentality of a savior, that somebody else is going to do it. Like another colonizer is gonna come and save us. The government is gonna do it. There's this kind of like in a box feeling. Whereas if you still believe in
Yeah,
that, of course, when they are coming, they're not coming for you. They're coming for their own interest. And there's nothing wrong with
sure.
collaborating with other people, but you need to be empowered. Because when they talk about Nigeria and they talk about Cameroon, it's two different things. When they talk about South Africa in the world and they
Yeah,
talk about, I don't know, Chad, it's two different things. Because of that economic power that South Africa has, that economic power that Nigeria has compared to Chad. whereas we should all seek to be like Nigeria to the world, or to be like South Africa to the world, or we should all seek to be an economic power. And when you're not economically strong, you can't, like, I want to bring back to the point of decision making. When you do not have economic power, like I remember in history, they were able to separate Africa, share Africa without Africans being in the room, because we were not human to them. We were not economically strong to them. Obviously now, thousands of years later, we're in the UN, we have our own seats, but the majority of the decisions, no African country fits in the main decision, the superpowers. They're not there. Whereas we are the ones that are kind of contributing with our raw materials to the development of these economies, but we still don't have a very powerful decision to make. So it's like we need to step up our economic power, and entrepreneurship prompts that. Creation. We are creative enough. We're innovative enough. We're smart enough. We have our own struggles. We have our own realities, which makes our content, our businesses more relatable to our market, because we know our people. When foreign countries come in and say, and they'll want to work with locals because they know, we don't know. We just have the product, so you just sell. That's more of how their strategy is, because they're like, okay, you know how to talk to your people. We just want the money back. So we as Africans, we know our market. We know what our people want. We know, I think people don't understand that we already have everything that we need in terms of understanding what our market needs. And we may not have all the tools, infrastructure, but in some African countries, I feel like they're getting it. Governments are getting it. Things are moving slowly but surely. But I feel like, I think I was saying it to a friend a couple of days ago, these the economic powers, Europe, UK, everything, they were able to build their economies through man labor. So they stole us. They were able to build through man labor primarily, to build these buildings and everything.
Sure.
And that took a long time. That took a lot of suffering, and it really dirtied their history. But we are different. We have technology. Our economies are growing in the era of technology, which means we can grow faster if we really understand how we can use tech to help our economies touch so many different fields: fintech, health, transport, all these different things. We as economies in Africa that are still growing, we can grow faster because we can use tech. They didn't have tech. They built their economies with manpower, labor, slave, a lot of different things. But we have tech. So it's an opportunity that we can grab on if our economies understand that, if our government understand it, if we as people get that.
No, thanks. Thanks, Pamela. So here's the thing, right? I mean, when I ask myself, about this question, what is the role of entrepreneurship in the development of African economies? So I've seen a lot. Okay. She's gone. Let's see if she's gonna come back. So anyways, guys, I mean, I'm happy to hear your comments, as we have this conversation. I'm happy to hear your questions as well. And it's an informal session as usual. And the main aim is for us to have platforms to express ourselves, and to talk about the challenges that we have, right? And to share ideas, right? And there's a lot that we can learn from those who've been around a bit longer than some of us. And also we do have the role to play to influence the mindset of the youth. And how can they believe in their own? And if we do not demonstrate that, right? So yeah, that's like really it. And I think also as problem solvers, whether you are a entrepreneur or you are working for a corporate company, right? We need to have opportunities to talk about these challenges, and also so that we can better understand how better can we serve our own African continent in a way that serves us, right? And not to be led by the Western thinking. Anyways, so let me see if Pamela is coming back. I don't know if she's got load shedding. So yeah, I wanted to give my opinion on this topic while I'm waiting for her, right? What is the role of entrepreneurship in the development of African economies? So I think the big mistake that we tend to make is that we try to mimic, what the US, the UK, the Asians have done, and we try to bring that, bring that home. And I've traveled quite a bit, and there are things that have impressed me, and then the things that have actually disappointed me, right? And as much as we can, focus on chasing the economy, it's very, very important for us to really ask ourselves, right? What are our African values, right? And how can we take opportunities of the available technology, to support our African values so that we can live life the way that technology serves us, right? And, you know, the question about are we living, a meaningful life? Oh,
Yeah, this would
I
just
see.
went
Oh, you back?
back. Sorry, the internet just went crazy.
That's
Wi-Fi.
fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I actually wanted to respond, to give my opinion about, the role of entrepreneurship in the African, continent, right? So what I'm saying is that we need to pause a bit and ask ourselves, right, what are our African values, in
Mm,
context of the times that we live in, right?
mhm,
And how can we take advantage of technology so that it serves, us as African, right?
mhm,
Because we tend to mimic what has US has done, what the Asians and what the UK has done, and
mhm,
that doesn't necessarily mean that that is a great way, great approach.
mhm,
I mean, we've seen, like Africa is beautiful. In South Africa, I love spending time in Eastern Cape. It's one of my favorite places to be. It's lovely because I appreciate nature. I hate, like, seeing
Bills.
continuous buildings, and not to have the land, to appreciate life, not to have the land, to be one with nature, right? And as much as we can continue to build bridges, continue to, build buildings, um, like times have changed, we are now in an era where even the implementation of internet, has gone off ground, you know, and now it's, the next phase, from having mobile connection to, you know, um, a global connection
Mhm,
that doesn't have to touch Earth, right? And if you look at, at the work that Elon Musk is doing, right, that will put us in a greater position. That means wherever you are, you can easily connect, right? It means that us as Africans, we don't have to continue digging and, dumping pipes and, because we can leapfrog, you
mhm,
know and those are the kind of like opportunities and the kind of thinking that I want us to apply, right? And because there are mistakes that we need to learn from the so-called developed countries, right?
yeah,
And also for us to live in a way that serves us, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't promote, the American culture, because to
Mhm,
me it doesn't make sense. And if I can't apply my own mind to ask myself what is a rich life, you know, and as an African, right, in context of my values, and how can I actually how can I live life, right? And also, if you talk about entrepreneurship, what role can it play that will support us to live life in a way that makes sense to Africans?
mm. And I think you just to bounce off what you said before you go to the next question about Africans really knowing how to create products that are for Africans by Africans, like, not just copy and paste what they are doing. And I think people need to understand, need to be informed. And I think a lot of Africans don't have the right information. They have a lot of information about, or they don't concern themselves with a lot of information about Africa. They don't have a lot of information of what is really lacking, what is really going on, there isn't a lot that people consume. So having those kind of information can be like, okay, you know what? There's this business, there's this problem, there's this particular problem that I want to solve in this village.
Yeah.
And this is how I want to go about it. So having access to information, like I said, we consume so much content of other people, and we know so many things that are going on in other people's countries that we don't know what are the opportunities. Because as an entrepreneur, you need to think that every problem is an opportunity. Every lack of something is an opportunity for you to bounce on and your own thing. So we need to give Africans information about their own economy, what's going on that is lacking here. How can you as an entrepreneur, and I think entrepreneurship is a thing that you have, it's a feeling thing. You have to feel like it's something that you have to do. You have to be someone that is passionate about change. You have to be someone that's creative. There's so many things that build up an entrepreneur. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, but there are things in there, you as a person, you will know this is kind of my calling. And then once you have that spirit, you'll be able to be like, okay, you know what, this is a problem, I want to fix this. But then you will come across obstacles and realities that will allow you to be flexible with your solution, whatever you're trying to change, so that it fits the African community. Like I said, you may create something that is really great for the African community, but they may not be receptive and the market may not be ready. So you have to be able to be flexible around that. And which is why some people, they will create solutions, they'll put it out in the market isn't ready. Then they're like, you know what, let me adapt it so that I can just take this elsewhere. Adapt it and sell it to another company. Because they get frustrated with how the market isn't ready, the infrastructure, the responsive, the behavior. So you need extreme patience to be an entrepreneur in Africa.
So I want to jump to this next question. So what have you learned from interviewing African entrepreneurs?
Yeah, oh my gosh, so many things. I can't even say all of them. One thing that I definitely learned, because when I started my show, I had no clue what entrepreneurship was about. I had read the books, but I didn't have the reality. I knew that entrepreneurship, the first thing they taught me was that entrepreneurship was hard. It's very hard, especially in Africa, anywhere in the world, but it's very hard. When you have a great idea, it doesn't always go the way you want to. And it has to be a calling. It has to be something that you're really passionate about. The second thing is probably that entrepreneurship will build certain character traits that you need in real life that a job can't do for you. In entrepreneurship, you will learn how to be patient. You will learn how to be creative. You will learn how to manage your emotions. You will learn how to network, how to talk to people, how to read people. Because when you're meeting, our economies are very different. There's a code of conduct. You need to have this person in this network to help you do this. You learn how to manage money, because if the first time you make so much money, you blow it out. That's it. You need to understand that your profit is not the money you're gonna be balling with on Saturday night. Like it's not that. So you need you learn so much about real life through just starting a project and running it. If you start a project and you run it for 2 years, trust me, after the 2 years, you're gonna be a completely different person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. No, thanks. So what major African problems should Africans focus on?
There's so many problems. We have so many problems.
What
business
major
ventures, like maybe business ventures, for example, or opportunities or industries that people should look into? Is that the question?
Yeah. So the question is like, what major African problems should we focus on, right? Like for instance, in South Africa, right? Right now, we've got a huge problem of having a supply of electricity 24/7, And few years we started having load shedding. It was not as hectic as it is today. And so I mean, there is like renewable energy, etc. And so then there's agriculture, right? So I grew up in a village, growing my own vegetables. I hardly like went to town. We would go, we would supplement, with food from town. And I used to head cattle ship, and I used to hunt. And as part of lifestyle, it was like nothing, you know, special, right? And times have changed, and whenever like I look back to that life, like I'm like, wow, I've lived like a rich life growing up, and um, I didn't feel like I depend on the system, and the, the lack of like self-sufficiency is a big problem, and that self-sufficiency extends to so many like angles, and to the point where it's like you almost have to like call for help for everything, right? And if we don't have the knowledge, I mean, we even like used to grow stuff even when I was in primary school as part of the curriculum, and I'm assuming that is no longer the case nowadays, right? And learning how to dissect insects, for me seems a bit useless. Learning, how to do like advanced calculus for most people, I don't see like a strong need, right? And I mean, when I observe, I mean, even the children from China learning how to do basic stuff, to be taught how to be self problems, right? And that's why entrepreneurship is such like a hard thing, you know. Um, and it's the education system as a result, and apart blaming the education system, I have to continuously blame myself and ask myself, right, what is it that I can do, and what is it that I can contribute to the people that are close enough to me, right? So that we can change the status quo, right? One of the major problems that we have is that as a result of us not believing in ourselves or not listening inward, we tend to welcome ideas that come from outside, and the energy that comes from outside, to save us, right? And I mean, this is something that you've touched on, right? And anyways, yeah, let me give you a chance to jump in.
No, I just want to bounce on what you said about being self-sufficient. I think, like I said, a lot of Africans live in this savior mindset, and I don't
Yeah,
even think it's something that they know of. They just feel like, it's the environment, it's the school, it's what, if you've never seen it, you more likely not want to. And I think there's a part in the human brain that is always afraid of changes. So if you convince
yeah,
yourself that, I don't want to change. This is how it's always been. We've always had it this way. Why should we now change? So people are afraid that they will not be able to adapt to change. So a lot of people don't take chances. This is part of being self-sufficient. I think entrepreneurship teaches you how to be self-sufficient. It teaches you how to be to depend on yourself, to be smart, to figure things out, to even teach you how to work as a team. And it's so important. It's so, so important. I don't know where he is. Is he still there?
yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just.
it's just scary when you're not there. I just panic. But to answer your question in terms of the problems that Africans need to be focused on, for example, electricity problem. I think it's a problem we all have. is is real. Like I think electricity problem is a problem every African in the sub-Saharan Africa has. So electricity is a problem that we have. I think also a huge problem that we also have here in Cameroon specifically has to do with transportation. The transportation system isn't really developed, so any person that's coming here needs to, like right now we just had like our first Uber, for example, first Uber system just kind of installed itself, I think last year. And in other countries it's gone really, really fast, but we in Central Africa it's slow. So transportation is a real problem for certain people. Health is a real problem. Financial inclusion, especially for women. A lot of people don't have bank accounts, don't have access to bank details. And when you realize, when you look a little bit at, there are a lot of people who work, the people who've worked for so many years, and they have money saved up somewhere, but they don't have the information. They're not educated. They don't know how it goes. They don't have they didn't go up to university to get a degree and go and fill out all these forms at the bank. So financial inclusion is a huge, huge, huge market.
Yeah.
And that's a problem that we need to fix, because the majority of people in Cameroon here, they believe in this jangi. It's like an association where you have your friends, and every month you guys drop money, and then at the end of the month we all accumulate, and then we kind of disperse. So if you need,
Yeah.
I don't know how to call it, but I think every African country has it, but it's a different name. So that's where most people
Yeah.
keep their money. That's their bank.
Yeah.
Associations, groups, they are more happy doing that, where there is more likely going to be theft than taking their money to go to banks, because there's a bad narrative, there's a misconception. They feel like they're not educated enough to go and fill out all these forms. It's still a very long procedure for people to get to have access to financial services, even transportation services here, health services here are, it's crazy. So I think it depends on each region, but specifically in Central Africa, I think more or less those are the huge problems that we have right now.
Sure. No, thanks. Yeah, I actually wanted to respond on that, but let me, keep quiet. And so 90% of the startups don't make it to their 10th anniversary, and this is something that you were talking about in one of your, podcast episodes. Could you please elaborate on that?
First of all, I'm gonna invite everybody to go and listen to the whole series, because I ain't gonna give too much. You have to go and listen to the whole series, because Leslie and I, we actually developed it all for people, because we understood that a lot of people applied for this Tony Lumelu Foundation. A lot of people, Cameroonians, apply. They want to get the $5,000. They want to build a company, but most of them don't make it there because there isn't a good structure. There isn't a good base. A lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but they want to be entrepreneurs for the lifestyle, for the name of entrepreneurship. They're not really passionate about, solving problems and, thick and thin. Most people just want the name, just want the popularity, and they just want to win awards, stupid awards, but their solution doesn't impact the society. A lot of entrepreneurship just want the money. They just really want the money, and that's that. They'll take the money and then they'll go. They want to raise funds and take the money and go. They have various needs. And then there are those who are really passionate, but they don't have the right structure. They don't know how to build a team. They've not done the right market research. They've not done the necessary steps to make sure that their startup is really set up to last more than 3 years, last more than 5 years. So and that is a progress. So we go deep in that in the podcast. So I'm gonna invite everybody to go check that out.
Yeah,
It's a great
sure.
series.
Yeah, so definitely, please, on the same event on LinkedIn, just share some links, just so that people, know where to find you. And so I mean, we talk a bit about that. So how can we as Africans, how can you collaborate beyond the walls of our African countries? Because that's one of the big challenges. We tend to work in isolation, and if there's a startup in South Africa that wants to expand, to Zimbabwe, Namibia, or Cote d'Ivoire, right, or Cameroon, it's such a big hustle, and apart from the regulatory, perspective, um, the energy of collaboration, like has to be fueled.
I think one way that we can promote, apart from the regulations, the economy is really trying to help us all, because the different currencies makes it really difficult. I think it has to also be we have to encourage things like this, initiatives like this that bring Africans together, that allow us Africans to meet, that allows us Africans to collaborate, to see each other, to be like, okay, hey, my bro, hey, my friend, and all of that. So those kind of initiatives that empower us as Africans to meet is one step. And it also needs to be, one thing you're going to understand is when you travel to different parts of Africa, you will see that everybody has a different mindset. I grew up in Tanzania. Like East African people, they have a different mindset. They have a different way of doing things. They're calm. Move to Central Africa, it's a different mindset. The French, the everything. So there's so much diversity that you as a person, you need to first of all be open-minded. You need to be open-minded to that, to being like, you know what, I want to meet somebody, make connections. The first, I always knew that I wanted to work with other companies. I always knew that I wanted to work outside of Cameroon. Tuna Cheki gave me a chance. It's a YouTube channel that's based in Kenya. They gave me a chance. I moved to working with We Love Africa, which is in South Africa. I made some connections in South Africa. And I've never met these people. Never met them physically. It was just a thing of trust. It was a thing of being open-minded. And it was a thing of being loyal and not being dishonest, because everything has to do with your character. If people can be open and they reach out to you, they want you to work with you. You also need to have the right character to make sure that there's that trust there. And so I've encouraged that. I'm very open to working with other Africans from different parts of the world, different parts of the continent, because I believe that's just how we grow. If we are all in the same, we all have similar problems. We all have similar economic problems. Yeah. Our governments go through this tussle and hustle. So it's about being open-minded, working on your character, and just knowing that everybody is different, but we are all in the same boat, and encouraging initiatives like this.
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks a lot. So in terms of pushing the African agenda, what are your plans, and how can we as Africans support you?
My plans. So I am currently working on, apart from everything that I'm doing, I'm currently working on releasing more content around entrepreneurship. My podcast started 2 years ago, but I've learned so much. I've met so many entrepreneurs, and I just want to push in with more content related to that. And that's going to be out hopefully by mid-March. So keep following me on LinkedIn. I will be posting that. You can check out My Entrepreneur on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts. It's available there. That's the content that I have out there, that I'm mostly focused on, just giving as much information, education to entrepreneurs. And I'm open to all kinds of collaborations. Anybody that needs insights, help, connect. If you're coming to Cameroon and you need information about something, hi. I'm very open to that. So that's currently what I'm working on now.
Definitely, yeah. So look, I mean, let me know at any time. We are planning to have
I would love to come to South Africa. It's there. I want to come and dance what's you guys dance? My piano. It's giving. It's giving. I can't get it right, but I'll get there.
Yeah. So I mean, look, there's a lot happening, and we're also planning to have an African design conference. I'm planning to do that around June, and I would definitely love to invite you. I'd love to invite you. So one of the reasons why it's worth having these conversations with people like you is that if we rely on the ranking systems that favor the Western, or European regions, it will not be in their best interest not to always find ways to rank their organizations or initiatives higher, whether it's universities, because I mean, And I mean, University of Cape Town is one of the best, universities, and I went there, and uh, I've experienced the quality, and I can't speak for others, but I was like seeing some rankings about universities and other stuff, I'm like, yo, that made you think we can, go up and down, around a certain range,
Mhm.
but because people have got an agenda, because if they need to promote US universities or
They will put
universities from the
both.
US or UK, definitely, like, there's no way in hell that they will show like lower rankings, and as a result, people feel the need to actually go and study, like abroad. And um, I don't believe that there's a lack of talent in Africa. I've met like a lot of like brilliant minds. And, again, us believing in ourselves, right? And actually to understand, because you can't be smart, you can't say you're smart if you can't actually see what is happening, you know? And just because my intellectual capability can be recognized by an overseas entity that has got its own agenda to promote itself. I can't say I'm smart because I'm not smart enough to even to recognize that, right?
Yeah.
And I can say I'm smart enough for selfish reasons to boost my ego, to say that I have qualified to enter into
Yeah.
this type of university, etc. Right? And for me, that's like that speaks to our mindset, right? And that also speaks to how much damage
The
has been
brainwash.
done to us.
It's a
Exactly.
brainwash. It's a brainwash to
Yeah. Yeah.
believe. There's always been a comparison. When they always talked about Europe, they painted it to be a perfect world, and we talk about Africa, they painted it to be this world, and it's like there's always a comparison. Oh, Africans are not like this, and Africans are not like that. So you start believing that narrative. You start consuming.
Yeah.
Like, about what we consume, is about what we believe, and it's until you get to that stage where you're like, you know what, these people, they're not exactly the role models. They're not exactly our role models, because if you look at their history, they're also, they call us savages, but they're also savages. So
Yeah.
they're not the perfect role model. We need to create our own, and it's difficult because we've kind of been the dump where everything has been, anything that we didn't like, they just kind of just dumped here, and they become the market of testing, of trying out things. Whereas we kind of this identity issue now that we
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Africans are going to have, of who are we, what do we do. So it's a process. It's definitely something that sorry, it's definitely something that we as Africans need to wake up and work towards. And I believe once we are able to, like I said, have so much information about Africa, work as much as we can with Africa, promote our own, and really be solid when we're against others. That's when we can really grow, because if we're against each other, we don't win. If we are together, even if we're different, we can support each
Yeah.
other, we can hold each other's hands. Then, in that comparison, we won't really believe it, because not everything that is Western is true for us, works for us,
Sure.
is ideal for us. Sometimes the best stuff comes from here. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this leads me to, this is probably my last question, if I'm not mistaken. How can we influence the African youth to have an interest in the economic development of Africa?
How can we influence them? I think people are inspired by what they see and what they know. So if they see a lot of, like, if they see a lot of successful businesses run by Africans, if they see a lot of Africans going out there, even in the music industry, the fact that we're seeing Nigerians collaborate with other countries, I mean, the fact that we hear Afro beats being played, or Mapino being played in Western clubs, it's like, okay, we got it, it's going
Yeah.
somewhere. So if we see that there is a movement, if they see that there is something that our own is being copied, our own is being done, then it will influence them to be like, you know what, okay, no matter what, I'm gonna stick through. If we see a lot of tech startups that are Africans that are South Africans that are really helping the South African or the African environment be copied in other Western countries. They'll be like, okay, you know what? It's good to start here. It's good to be here. Like, I don't have to copy from abroad. I can start my own here, build it up, and they will come and look for me instead of me going to look for them. So influencing them with the information, with the sources, and just showing up as entrepreneurs. If you started a business, keep pushing. Somebody is going to be inspired by your story, is going to want to do exactly the same thing, and that's how we develop.
Thanks for those who are joining us, and comments coming from Ngole Leopoldine from Cameroon, and I've seen comments coming from Aaron Adewinsa from Ghana. Great to see you, and comments coming from Marcus Chabane, and I'm not sure if it's Chabane or Kabane, loving the topic. And also I'm recognizing Baraka Creation joining from DRC Congo. Guys, great to see you. And so my opinion on this question, is that I know we are hungry, to show success, and we want to boost our egos. We want to appear successful, etc. And at the same time, we also need to acknowledge, the impact that we have, to the young blood. And we can't be preaching, support local, and if we praising, expensive imported brands, right? And for us to be better, we need to give ourselves the opportunity, to get better. And I'm not saying we need to buy mediocre products, but we need to demand better, and we need to give ourselves an opportunity, to go through that journey, of learning and producing, better quality, right? And it's a risk that we need to take. It's an opportunity, that we need to create for ourselves, right? And as much as we rely on boosting our egos, on exported goods, on imported goods, the youth will also, fall into that trap, right? And as I said, I'm also like, sharing my own frustrations about myself. I don't know as much as I should, about Africa, and it's a challenge that I have to, impose on myself. And as I engage with the different, Africans, from Cameroon, DRC Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, I am learning, from you guys. I don't have to necessarily be in those places, right? And sure, I can, travel a bit, but I think we need to elevate our own stories, and we need to be aggressive about, sharing, our own stories, and, share our own opportunities.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, where can we reach you? Which platforms are you available at? And I mean, as I said, it would be great if you can just leave your details there so that people, can watch some of your podcasts. And I've had the privilege of listening to some content that I've seen, online about what you're doing, and as I said, for us to be better, we need to support, we need to support each other with an intent, to improve, right? And we have technology, and if technology is not supporting us, it's not creating the opportunities for us to grow. There's no need for a person who's living in a village to come to the suburbs. If they have the knowledge, they should have the access, via the internet, to be able to do the job that I'm doing, a person doesn't have to move from the village to the townships, right? If technology is really like serving us, right, and we should be upholding our African values, we shouldn't be diluting our African values if technology is serving us, to promote our own African values, right? And from my side, I want to challenge everyone, including myself, to reflect on this conversation, to think about, what matters to us. And it's easy to be led by what the technology provides, and it's easy to be led by what the Western and European, the Asian has achieved, and try to mimic that, right? And I believe we are brilliant. I believe we are capable. I believe that um, this is like an ideal time for us, to take ownership, of our problems, and to take ownership of our own faults, to so that we can grow and become better, and create, an opportunity where entrepreneurship plays a role in the African development in a way that serves us. So, hi.
Yes, I completely agree. I think we need to, there's a comment there, we definitely need to work together more so that we can change the way other people view us and how we view ourselves. And the most important way is through collaborations, being open. And like you said, if we can develop our own countries, our infrastructure, then someone in the village does not need to move to town, or someone in town does not need to immigrate and get on a bus or get on a boat and die somewhere because they're trying to get better life. But it's all about that. Internet connection is so crazy. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so I'm seeing a
Are
comment
there
here.
any questions?
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Pamela. It was like really great, to have you. And I'm seeing a comment here from Nelly Nganga. The more we are open to collaborate with each other, the more knowledge we gain about our continent. This was a great, and this was an amazing initiative to see. So yeah, no, thanks a lot, and thanks for those who've joined us. And I want to say thank you, to our guest, to come here, to share, her perspective. And yeah, I mean, this conversation has to continue. The economic development of Africa is not a once-off conversation. And if you guys, want to learn more about what Pamela Nga does, please, check her out. You can Google her name, and she will also, like, share some details about, mindful and entrepreneur. She's got, a lovely podcast, and there's a lot. You don't necessarily have to, be in a position to start your own business. Even if you're working in the corporate, environment, I think it's great for us to have that, entrepreneurial spirit, the entrepreneurial mindset. And also, if you're working for a corporate company that has got an interest, to invest or to take opportunities in the African continent, it is, uh, beneficial for you, to, go and check out, like, her content, and also, for us to keep this conversation alive. So yeah, I know we've ran out of, I'm out of time, and since you were flowing, I didn't want to stop you. And so, guys, I know some people had to leave. That's fine. It's it's an open platform, and people can come, and live, as they please. So yeah, thanks a lot, and it's been like really great, to have you. And as I said, I hope to stay in touch and see you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Tia. I hope I'm saying it right. I hope I'm saying it right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for everyone who joined. This is a great initiative. I can't wait to come back. And yeah, we stay in touch. Anybody feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn for more questions, for a debate, for a discussion. I'm very open. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, eh? Just
bye.